Bloodwolf Arts Studio. Unleash the artist within.
Alrighty. Welcome to the Bloodwolf Reading Hour. My name is Mr. Moonlight, your host, and we've got our special guest here again with us, Robyn Maria, reading her book From Surviving to Creating. So I think it's been 3 weeks since we've had one of these. Lots of stuff happening, man. So much stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
we both we've both had a lot of stuff processing going on.
Mhm.
Ah, all right. So we left off from our last chapter, chapter 5, where there was a lot of talk and you sharing a bit about when you met your partner, your husband, um, and a lot of the stuff that you experienced as you stepped into that new chapter of your life. And we concluded with the activity on what it looks like to build partnerships, not just romantic, but community support and some reflection and some tools to navigate stepping into something new that, as you so shared in your book and your experience, um, stepped into something that in the past was something you felt like you was not worthy of even having at all. So So that's a little bit of a recap. You got your book on hand? All right. Um, I guess real quick before we dive in, is there something you want to chip in, chime in, share a little bit?
No, I'm excited for this chapter and to see, what it brings up for you and for other people. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a great chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters in the book.
Hmm. I'm already liking the title.
Yeah.
Um, I guess it's naturally what comes next after stepping into embodying partnerships that um, reflect your self-worth and value.
Hmm.
Um, Okay. And I guess before we jump in, it was interesting. So I just sort of reflect a little bit on, I did the activity. Um, and it's interesting because I've been stepping into a lot of my own work with this, navigating some of this stuff of community. And so I feel like a lot of this stuff just came up so effortlessly in a lot of ways. 'Cause it's like, well, of course, of course.
Well, and
Um,
that's the ebb and the flow. So um when something when you're ready to take something on, then it kind of just flows in, no matter the source that it comes from. So it doesn't surprise me. You're so intuitive and so self-aware, Erin, that it doesn't surprise me that this book has brought out and assisted you in healing and looking at so many things.
Thank you. All righty. We'll just dive right in. Chapter 6. If I come from God, I can only be divine. And if I am divine, then I am capable of all things, from scarcity to success, with belief and faith. Some people think fear is what stops them. I've lived through the kind of fear most people only read about. So fear doesn't really register the same for me. Real fear, that was waking up in a tent unsure where my next meal would come from. That was washing dishes as a teenager, knife in hand, and seriously considering taking a man's life to end the abuse. That was enduring beatings, surviving foster care, and watching the people who were supposed to protect me become the ones I feared the most. Getting to business. Starting a business never scared me because I knew if I could survive that, I could survive anything. I've never waited for permission to do what needed to done. One morning, my aunt in California, a woman who's just a few years older than me and runs a similar business, was listing all the things she had: notary license, general contractor status, etc. I realized she had a notary certification, and I didn't. That was the only difference between us. So I got out of bed, went online, and got mine. Not because I needed it right that second, just because I could. That's always been my mindset. I don't wait for the perfect moment. I don't wait for certainty. I take action. And if it doesn't work out, I ask a better question. How else can I get what I want? It's not about being right. It's about moving forward, always. When you've walked through what I've walked through, or you've stood at that sink as a teenager holding a knife, knowing your next move could define your entire life, you learn that waiting is a luxury survival doesn't afford. Even now, as a woman, a wife, a business owner, I still carry that inner fire, not out of rage, but out of resilience. I've earned the right to move forward without second guessing myself. I've earned it through every scar, every decision, every early morning when I rose before the sun just to avoid another beating. I know what it's like to be held back by other people's opinions, fears, and control. I know what it's like to be told what I can't do and to do it anyway. Now, every time I take action, whether it's launching a business, leading a team, or earning a license, I'm not just doing it for me. I'm doing it for every woman who's ever been told she's too much, too broken, or too late. I'm showing her you don't need perfect conditions. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't even need to be fearless. You just need to move. Because clarity, growth, and abundance all live on the other side of motion. And if you fall, you get up stronger, smarter, and more determined to try again. I've had many different directions in career and lifestyle, from nursing to hairstylist to entrepreneur. Adaptation is a part of my life, and pivoting was a matter of making it happen. Just want to take a second here. It's interesting just reading this little portion here, just because how much I know you, what I know about you. Like this is so you. Um, on fire, making it happen. It's even like getting your book published. It's like, okay, what's in the way? Okay, now it's not in the way. It's it's done. Um, but one of the things that I really like is this couple sentences right here. Let's see, where was that? Basically, I'm not seeing it now. You don't need, oh, there it is. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't even need to be fearless. You just need to move. Um, it's the idea and embodiment that I know you live every day, that it's not a perfect time. You move and you make the time work.
I don't think I've ever experienced the perfect time for anything ever in my entire life. I don't think something's come into my space and I went, oh, this is the perfect time for that. It's just about bold action. And ever since I can remember, before I ever heard the phrase bold action, I have always lived in that space. If you say I can't do something, so says you. I can do whatever I choose. If you're
Yeah.
going to tell me gravity doesn't let me fly, I'll find a way that gravity will let me fly because I am in charge of myself and I am the only one that is. And in the book where it says, I do this for every woman, that is true. But I do it for more than her. I do it for every fellow being. I because all of us are capable of the same thing.
Yeah.
And the only limitation we ever have in this life is ourselves.
Um,
That's why this is one of my favorite chapters.
well, I'm really liking the energy of this. It just made me think it's actually a quote I have on my lock screen on my phone. It's Alan Watts, and it says, "The illusion is that change takes time. The truth is that change happens the moment you decide." And I
Hmm.
could hear some,
Exactly.
I could hear some people argue, um, it's like nature, like there's a cycle, and I would say that's true. And also, um, the key difference is when you trust yourself, you know your timing, it's your time. Because I could hear some people saying, well, you know, there's a natural flow, like how trees ripen, they sprout, and there's different needs that they need, which is true. And also, I think that's the big point that I love that you bring home in your book is that you learn to trust yourself when you know you go, and when you are moving to
Mhm.
your own rhythm, you move when you move, and you know, um, the perfect time won't be there necessarily, like the circumstances, but the perfect time, when your time is, when it's time to move. And when you're committed
Mhm.
to trusting yourself and you're clear about your worth, then you can move whenever you're ready to move, and you'll know what to do, and the support will be there. That's what I hear you say here. Uh, it's kind of like somebody who says, "Well, someone says I'm ready for a relationship," and if they're tied to one person to make that relationship, that's you might be stuck a while. But if you say, "I'm okay if it's not this person," then someone will swoop in who's ready on the same track you are, and your reality changes just like that. So I like what you
Absolutely,
experienced.
because when you get rid of what doesn't serve you anymore, when you get rid of what doesn't serve you anymore, you make room for what will.
Yeah. Uh, this is great. So we'll continue on, but yes, I love that. The conditions, circumstances, you move when you move, and there's no perfect time except for when you choose. I'd say that's the perfect time is when you are
Hmm.
ready. Uh, okay.
Yes.
Beco Becoming. Having to pick yourself up and dust yourself off is not failure. It is becoming. My journey into entrepreneurship didn't follow a straight line. I was a registered nurse for 10 years because I believed bringing life into the world, being part of that moment, was sacred. But after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and suffering daily seizures, I couldn't be the kind of nurse patients needed. So I pivoted. I thought, what's practical? What still lets me serve people? I did hair for over a decade. My husband even built a salon for me in our basement. I loved the creative connection it gave me, but it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't paying the bills. So I pivoted again. When the stucco industry, our family's bread and butter, started to decline, my husband was too uncertain to take the general contractor test. Years of being told he was quote unquote incapable and quote unquote not smart enough had created deep rooted fear in him. So I said, then I'll do it. I took the course, passed the test. I now hold the general contracting license for our company. I own 51%. He owns 49%. Not because I need control, but because I took the lead when it mattered most. Leading and responsibility. People often talk about leadership as a title. For me, it's been a responsibility. I lead because I can. I lead because I trust. I lead because I believe in who I am and whose I am. If God created me, what else could I be but divine? Yes, I have a human body. Yes, I'm imperfect, but my soul is of him. That truth has carried me through every risk, every setback, and every new venture I've walked into. I've never viewed money as a destination. It's energy. It flows to where it's respected and used with intention. When times have been tight, and they still are as we stretch and build this latest business, I don't panic. I trust the ripple effect of what I'm putting out. I believe in divine timing. I believe in cause and effect. I believe that just as the rock makes ripples across a pond, there's an equal force underneath pushing back. That's faith in action. We've never gone without, and we never will. We operate from a space of trust, not scarcity. I've grown to look at my life and who I am. I am perfectly imperfect and am proud of it. I don't pretend to be perfect. I'm not trying to impress God with my resume. What I am honest about are my choices, my growth, and my desire to do good in this world. Um, we'll just finish up, but I wanted to talk for a second afterwards about that. Every business we've built, every role I've played has come from one core belief. This life is not about fear. It's about choosing into the experience you want to have. Every experience has something to teach you. Life never goes in a straight line, though you have a navigation system within you. Uh, there's a couple things that caught my attention. That last line right there. I've had a conversation with some people about this where they say that children don't come with instruction manuals. And I found myself kind of chuckling at that because they actually do. You just have to be paying attention to the child to hear what they're saying, because children have their own instruction manuals in their heart. That's what I've come to find. My experience has been, um, and I imagine it. I mean, I don't have children, but I mean, I've worked with kids, and it's like they know when they're ready for something, and usually they just need some support and encouragement to trust themselves. And I think that's probably one of the most difficult parts is trusting them to be the leader. But that is like what I experience is a big part of what this whole this chapter talks about is everybody has that navigation system. And when someone connects to that, then oh my gosh, like literally nothing is impossible, like anything. Um, and the other part that caught my attention was this part in the business where um, you mentioned that your partner was struggling to feel like they could step into that role. And I love how you phrased this and put it because what you did in that moment was that's partnership right there. And, people could get into the logistics like, oh, you have 51%, like even in a logical practical sense, you're like, well, you have the experience and the knowledge, and so it falls back on you. And that little extra percentage reflects that you are the one that has the extra, um, I don't know, like the background or the responsibility where you've chosen to step in that role. And that doesn't make you over, but it just exemplifies the leadership that you've chosen into in that partnership dynamic in that one point in your partnership. Um, but that
he has a phrase that he has a phrase that he kids about quite a lot, and he always says, "She's my boss at home and at work," because of that 1%. But in all honesty, that's logistical paperwork. We
yeah,
are we are 100% and 100% here for each other all the time.
yeah, and that's something that I working with your husband as much as I was able to. I mean, gosh, it's interesting how knowing you two, how much you two mirror, like complement each other. Um, because it's interesting because you have this very fiery kind of passionate energy, and he has that, but it's different. There's a super deep gentleness to it where it's like, of course you guys are
Mm.
in partnership. It's like it's the same, but it's different, you know. That makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
no, it's very much a yin and a yang. We fit together perfectly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was something I loved reading in our last chapter was exploring a bit of that dynamic because this t talks about, I mean, and it's not even you see the mirroring in the partnership, but there's all the big emphasis and focus on how you trusting in your own leadership um, is what has supported you to even from the start of the book when you took a hold of the reins as a teenager and said enough is enough and
Mhm.
started on this incredible journey of I would say reclaiming or remembering your divine sovereignty. That word's been coming into my space lately, sovereignty, but that's what that feels like.
Mhm. And that's what I'm committed to claiming this year is empowerment through sovereignty. Yeah,
I was gonna
it's a
say
beautiful.
we're gonna have to connect. We'll talk a little bit afterwards, but there's something that just came into my mind. I want to talk to you about after this. Some stuff I'm stepping into. I'm going on a trip in a couple weeks, but we can get into that.
Okay.
uh, have to get into that and share a little bit. So let me go ahead. I'm going to pull up the activity here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. All right. Okay. Reflection exercise from hardship to strength. Think about one strength you've earned through the hardest parts of your life. Maybe it's resilience or intuition or your ability to solve problems under pressure. Now ask yourself, how can I use that strength to build something new? What would it look like if I stopped doubting that strength and started trusting it instead? Who in my life could be impacted if I chose to fully live out that strength starting today? Let's see, where's it? Write it down, dream into it. Don't wait for perfect conditions, just start because you too are capable of all things. One of the first things that comes to mind, um, and I feel like a lot of people experience this when it comes to tapping into your strengths, is it seems like there's a message that is out there that a lot of people experience where the life has to be hard. And so people tend to not lean into their strengths, almost like it's subconscious default because it would be too easy to just lean into what you're naturally good at. And it's, I mean, of course, it's good to have balance. Like, you know, you need to know how to take care of yourself and to go out and work and have that balance and stuff. But I like how there's a focus here on leaning into those strengths because I feel like a lot of people by default they tend not to do that because there's a belief that life is supposed to be hard. Um, and I like how this reflection leans into noticing um, what it would look like if I leaned into the strength and what could I impact today. Basically, it's like this is something like this is a muscle I've got like really, you know, big. It's, you know, it's massive because of how much I've worked this part because it seems something I naturally inclined to, or my circumstances has challenged me in this way. And saying, you know, this is something I'm really good at. And I'm sure this could contribute to someone else who's maybe not had the same challenge, which I feel like that's a big part of even you writing your book and sharing this is something that you've been challenged and you leaned into this. And it's like, why not? Who could benefit from this strength of these experiences you've been through? And I feel like this encapsulates actually exactly you leaning into even publishing this book.
So one of the things that I think is pretty common in society, at least as far as what I've run into,
Yeah.
is that Um, it's it's almost I don't know if faux pas is the word, or but it's almost frowned upon to say you have a strength, that
Hmm.
you are good at something. Because then we want to start labeling those things as egotistical or self-serving or um, narcissistic or whatever the, negative connotation is that we put on it. But what an incredible world it would be if we celebrated the strengths of each other and that we stepped into our own power through those strengths. And we're able to say, hey, I am a good leader. I do draw people in. And look at the power of that and what it can create in this world for positive change. And everybody has that capability in one fashion or another, but they don't step into it because they either don't believe it about themselves or they think if they talk about it or show it, then people are going to think negatively about them.
Yeah, that just made me think of a conversation I had with someone who came to work at this place I work, and he came in, and I mean, I could tell he'd been doing so much of the self-awareness work. Like him and I, like we were just like him and I just got each other. Like we could tell we spoke the same language. Um, and one of our conversations, he looked at me and he said, he says some people would say that I have a little bit of narcissistic personality disorder. And he says, but the truth is, he says, I know my worth and my value. And he says, I make sure I put me first because he says, I know what I'm capable of. And, he says, like, I trust myself to see something like it is and then say it, or rather to just observe. Um, and I think a healthy dose of, I mean, it's really, he's like, and then he says, it's not really narcissistic. He says, it's self-love. He's like, I just love myself. And a lot of people would label it that way. Um, and it's funny because this particular individual, he came working at our company on one of like the would be considered one of the lowest levels of the job. But he shared with me that he has actually been the CEO of his own companies of in their similar field, and he's like, I just don't like it. He's like, he says the money and the pressure is not worth it. He says, I'd rather just be low profile and just doing the work that I'm doing for his own intentions and purposes. He has his own goals. And what like a lot of people on the team don't even know his credentials, and um, how valuable he actually is and what he knows. But the reason why he stepped into his role as he did is because he puts himself first. And he just says a lot of people would say I'm narcissistic or partially narcissistic, but he knows his strengths. He's been around the block. He knows what's what, and he's put in the work. And I'm like, and I think that you're spot on with that. It's like what a world it would be in if people really recognize that and we celebrated each other to lean into that. I mean, night and day difference, I'm sure. But
Well, that's what I'm committed to do. I'm committed to celebrating everybody's strengths with them as well as my own. Because, in my opinion, that is how we elevate the world.
I agree. That's I have the same commitment.
Perfect.
Yeah. Um, so this is going to be I'm sure I'll breeze through this exercise, because I've already had some things come to mind. Uh, just reading through this. So let's see. Let me look at the calendar next week because we've been on an interesting track with these live streams a little bit. Make sure that
Hmm.
we're good. Okay. It's possible. We'll plan on next week. It's possible I might have something else going, but I'll navigate even if we have to adjust the time a little bit. But we can figure on next week.
Hmm.
That'll be March 5th and 7 o'clock right here. So jumping into chapter 7. Uh, we're just moving right along.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. If you don't have anything else, is there anything else you want to chip in before we close out?
No, I'm just thank you for having me again.
Yeah, it's, it's been a whirlwind, to say the least.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We're going to tune in next week, 7 p.m. Keep on time. Follow us on the Facebook page if there's any updates. We'll be posting that. Um, so let's see, and we'll be jumping into chapter 7 and go ahead and take a look at this reflection exercise. And I'll have a copy or a link to Robyn's book in the description below if you want to purchase a copy and jump in, follow along, whatever you'd like to do. So thank you again, Robyn, for being with me tonight. And thank you, anybody who's watching, for tuning in. And welcome to my side of the moon.